Hey seedlings! Today we are going to be reading Dumb and Ditzy. We're going to be continuing with Chapter 6. Chapter 6. Chapter 5. Spill your secrets in the kitchen. Talk? About what? Spencer asked nervously, trying to stall for time, as his mind raced over reasons why the BAU would be on his doorstep. I'm not about to be arrested, am I? No, I haven't done anything wrong. Well, I did lie, but it had nothing to do with the case. They can't take me in for lying about my personal life, can they? Get a hold of yourself, Spencer. The more you panic, the more they're going to think something's up. Just take a deep breath and put on that stupid smile you spent so much time perfecting. After that, just ramble and babble all you can. We just wanted to ask you a few questions. About the case? Reed interrupted Hotch, completely unaware that you don't do that. His face stretched into his trademark smile. Guys, I didn't do much. You guys did all the work. Speaking of work, I'm so glad I had today off. I can just stay in and watch the fashion catwalks on the fashion channel. Gotta say, some of those heels, ouch, 12 to 24 inches, some even taller. They grow every year, I swear. Reed. Hotch tried to speak, but was steamrolled over by Reed's chitter-chatter. And the makeup, so extravagant. One model had feathers attached to his eyelashes. It was interesting. Not every day you see purple feather eyelashes, but sometimes you wonder why it's called fashion and not trash. Reed, Morgan began, seeing Hotch's jaw become set. The girls were all wide-eyed at the fact that Reed had actually ignored Hotch, and Rossi was looking at his wristwatch. Not that I'm dissing the designers. I know they try hard, but some of those designs... Reed shook his head in despair. You just have to ask yourself, why? I mean, those models work so hard to get thin. Some even die. He gave a sad sigh. They become so thin just to fit in something that makes people go, ick! He ended, making a sour face and sticking out his tongue. I'm impressed, Rossi told him seriously. About what? Reed tilted his head to the side and made his eyes go big. The girls fell for it immediately, but the men just rolled their eyes. I'm impressed at how far you're willing to go to change the subject. That is how you throw people off your trail, isn't it? Just by yakking their ears off until they have to leave or forget what they wanted to originally ask you. Simple but effective. I commend you, but I'm afraid your efforts are useless. So you might as well just save your breath. What are you talking about? Reed laughed, smile still frozen on his face. I'm just being me. Funny, I never knew to be a genius you had to act like an idiot. I'll have to make a note of that. Rossi replied dryly, and felt a twinge of guilt at how white Reed went as dread filled his eyes at the word genius. He opened and closed his mouth a few times, trying to say something, but no words would come. Just when he thought he could speak, Hotch's voice filled his ears, sending a death knell straight to his heart. Reed, we know. 3 simple words, but only 2 held any significance. We know. Was it sad that he knew at that exact moment that any other attempts to save himself would not only fail, but look absolutely pathetic? He hated the thought of giving up, but years of playing the casinos helped him understand that sometimes You just have to fold, even if you don't want to. So, for the first time in 4 years, he let his mask down in front of people that he did not entirely trust or even really know. The teen watched in amazement as the perky smile turned into a tiny frown. Happy eyes turned world-weary as the straight posture suddenly slouched against the door, as if Reed could no longer stand on his own. A long sigh escaped from pink lips as a thin hand ran through messy brown hair. The transformation had been quick. A blink would have missed it completely. But he looked entirely different after he was finished. He seemed more done in, as if he had seen too much, suffered too much in his short life. "What can I do for you?" he asked in a dead voice that made them exchange looks of worry. "You're not denying it?" Emily asked with confused frown. "No point in lying when you guys already know everything about me." Reed shrugged carelessly as he turned around and picked up his keys that had fallen on the floor. "I filled out forms to make sure specific parts of my file weren't for public viewing," he informed them as he unlocked his door. "The only way to access them is if you have authority, and the FBI does. Listen, I don't really want to have this conversation in front of my home for all to see. Would you like to come inside?" Under any other circumstances, he would have never allowed them in. Too much evidence against him in the form of books with titles most couldn't pronounce. But since the jig was up, there wasn't anything to hide anyway. He didn't wait for a response, just walked in and left the door wide open, already knowing they'd follow. They went to all the effort to find where he lived. He couldn't see them giving up now. Inwardly, he sighed as he headed towards the kitchen, intent on getting some coffee in his system. The team followed him inside and were currently looking around in awe. It was a tiny apartment, nothing special by any means of the word. But the books, Lord, were they everywhere? On the couch, on counters, some were perched hazardously on the windowsill, and some were stacked up on the floor to the point that they had to follow a small path made by Reed over the years. Christ, if I didn't think each and every one of these had been read, I'd say he's a hoarder, Rossi grumbled as he stubbed his toe on an encyclopedia. A bang was heard along with a drawn-out "no" from the kitchen. Worried, they followed the noise and found Reed staring lifelessly into an empty coffee canister. "I was going to offer you guys some coffee, but it seems I've run out. My good morning has just turned rotten," he moaned sadly, fighting back another sigh as he tossed the container into his trash. First, his cover was blown. Now this. The apocalypse was coming. He just knew it. "So, what can I do for you?" he asked nervously as he pulled out a chair and sat down at his table. He would have offered them a place to sit, but he never expected company, so the other chair was covered in books. It was the same in the living room. He didn't think they'd stay very long, so there wasn't a point in moving the books just to move them back. "You can answer a few questions for us," Hodge replied calmly, removing his sunglasses so Reed wouldn't feel more intimidated than he already was. "Sure, but only if you answer mine," the young man bargained. The profiles looked at each other for a moment before Hodge answered. "That's fine. First off, why are you hiding?" "I don't know what you're talking about. I'm right here. It's not like I changed my name or had plastic surgery, Reed replied innocently, making one last bid for freedom. Reed Hotch let the silent warning hang in the air. All right, Reed huffed with a pout that made Garcia hide a forming smile. It was for personal reasons. I wasn't hurting anyone, and I never tampered or contaminated any cases or evidence the department received. My turn, he said quickly so they wouldn't make him elaborate on his reasons. What gave me away? Your act is very good, Mr. Reed. Rossi took over and motioned to Garcia. She nodded and began digging into her purse for something. But you slipped up when you looked at the map after you changed it. How do you know I changed it? Reed countered, as Garcia let out a happy cry as she pulled out a magazine. The way you looked at it the night you bought us food. Also, with your math skills, you're the only one who would be able to change it that quickly. I must confess, though, Rossi told him as he took the magazine from Garcia and flipped to a marked page. When I first saw you, I thought you looked like someone I had seen before. I couldn't pin it down and decided to let it go. It was only after you gave us all the information on the paintings that I knew where I had seen you before. He handed the magazine over to Reed and watched his eyes widen in realization. If you want to hide your identity, maybe you shouldn't allow the publishers to put your picture by your pseudonym, Dr. Durns. Rossi ended dryly as Spencer looked down at his picture that had been put under an article he had written a few weeks ago. He was dressed in a sweater and had been wearing his glasses that day. He had even made sure to leave product out of his hair. He hadn't wanted his picture taken, but the editors pleaded with him, and in the end, he figured no one would connect it to him. The people I work with don't read these type of articles, Reed mumbled, letting the Psychology Today fall on the table. No, I don't imagine the police force has much interest in the chemical imbalance of the brain and its effects on the mind. However, when you're a profiler, reading articles like this can be essential to our work. Now, I'm going to ask you the same question Hotch did. Why are you hiding your abilities? I already told you, for personal reasons, Reed snapped back, irritated that they had gone back to that. Not enough, pretty boy, Morgan said with a shake of his head. Come on, kid, give us something to work with. Work with? Last time I checked, my personal life was not a case file for you to view and dissect. Reed leveled the man with a glare. Unfortunately, it had more the look of a disgruntled kitten than an angry lion. So Morgan and the girls had to fight off the grins off their faces. They knew Reed would not appreciate it. Rossi freely let his smirk loose, and Hodge's mouth twitched upward for a nanosecond before forming a straight line again. You're right. You want a case, Hodge told the young man. But the fact you went through all this effort to lie, makes you suspicious. You're a genius, Reed. You're wasting your time mindlessly filling things away in the back of a dusty room. No, you have a motive, and we would like to know what it is. My motive? My motive? Reed yelled as he stood up, losing his patience. What? You think I'm preparing to blow up a building or something? Don't want to massacre make Vegas go up in a blaze. I'm not an unsub for you to profile. I'm not doing this because I'm angry or want revenge on anyone. You think I like acting stupid? Do you know how demeaning it feels when I have to tell people I think the BAU stands for Beauty Association Union? You don't think it kills me when I have to intentionally mix things up and work extra hard to trip over things? You think I like the looks of pity and the eyes rolling back in annoyance at my behavior? Of course not. He spat out, cheeks flushed in anger as his thin chest heaved in big gulps of air. Then why did you do it? Hutch jumped in. He had interrogated hundreds of suspects and over time learned that the best time to get answers was when they went into emotional upheavals like the one Reed was in right now. For protection, the boy's voice cracked. For survival, because as much as I dislike acting stupid, I'm being treated far better than I ever was as a genius. Do you know how many broken bones I received over the years just because someone was mad that I was smarter than them? How many death threats I received if I didn't keep my mouth shut about one thing or another? Oh, I doubt they would have gone through it. But the fact that I got them in the first place shows how uncomfortable, how angry I made people, and I was just being me. He ended heatedly, brushing away a few tears that had spilled over. Why was he so teary these days? Why didn't you ask for help? Emily asked quietly, her eyes holding sympathy for him. Help? From who? He snorted. Don't you know? I'm a genius. I already have the answers. Oh, Spencer, they're just jealous. They'll get over it, he said in a high-pitched voice, a mocking version of a school counselor he had in the past. Yeah, they got over it, he snorted. They got over it by stripping me naked and tying me to a goalpost. He shuddered at the memory, not realizing he had said it out loud, missing Garcia's shocked gasp at the information. Are you talking about your high school? JJ asked, thinking back on her own years. She had been popular, but she had never treated them as harshly like the others. But you didn't stop them either. A voice whispered in her head, and she winced in guilt. Oh yes, high school was a blast. In any case, it will make a great paper on why you shouldn't allow adolescents to go in early. Not that college is any better, Reed finished in a tart voice. Yes, college. Heard you went to a pretty snazzy one, Lassie said casually. I'll admit I learned quite a few things at Caltech, but it wasn't any different from high school, Reed told him with a sad, almost nostalgic look on his face as the memories swelled up inside. The staff was so excited to have a genius on board that that's the only thing they cared about. Just the genius. Not me, not Spencer Reed. As long as I was wowing them with my brilliance, my emotional state wasn't important. And the students, Reed scoffed in disgust. You'd think they'd be different from my high school buddies, but no. I guess even smart people hate it when a kid doesn't try and still upstages them. To be fair though, only the science majors hurt me physically when they'll be damned if the whole student body wasn't doing a shutout on me. He told them with a bitterness one so young shouldn't have. You're telling me these science rooms laid hands on you? Morgan asked in a dangerous voice, his anger rising at every new segment of Reed's story. How did they put it again? Oh, I remember, Reed said with a false smile. I was just their science experiment. Just so you know, having ammonia sprayed into your eyes hurts like nothing else. I couldn't see anything but blurs for weeks, even with my glasses, and my eyes were always watering up from the pain. That's an alcohol I burned for you. All for some science kids' experiments on the different effects of ammonia. Guess what I discovered? It cleans and burns. You know the funniest part? My eyes never fully healed. Thank goodness for contacts. He ended with a mad laugh, and Penelope couldn't take it anymore. She burst through the group and wrapped his shaking form in a hug before he knew what was happening. Oh God, sweetie, never again. Never. She trailed off, her mascara running down her face as she held his squirming form in her tight hold. You shouldn't promise things like that, he chided her softly, feeling bad for making her cry. He hadn't told them to make anyone cry. In fact, he berated himself silently. He had not to tell them anything. Now he made his life sound like one big tragedy. It's fine, Miss Garcia, he coughed awkwardly as he tried to shuffle out of her grip, and failed spectacularly. I mean, it wasn't nearly as bad as I made it sound. Don't you dare try to downplay this, she told him with an angry frown, tapping his arm slightly in warning. You don't know this, sugar, but I also went to Caltech, and our years overlapped slightly. What? He managed to croak out. No, hey, she's lying. Yes, I was in my last year when this tiny slip of a boy ran into me one day. Stop, he whispered quietly, running from these creeps with pliers and scissors. They had such gleeful looks of malice on their faces. It made me sick. God, what were they going to do to you? She asked him in a hushed voice. I don't know, he confessed. After you threatened to ruin their social lives, they never came near me again. They probably thought we were friends. I assumed you were on a college visit. I had never seen you before. And I thought you were someone's kid. Believe me, sweets, if I had known you were Spencer Reed, I would have been your friend faster than you can recite the periodic table. She gave him a wink. Really? He asked, doubt and hope mingling within him at her declaration. Of course! I love it when people get put off balance, and baby, you did that a lot back in the day. She giggled. Besides, how could I resist those big brown eyes? Shy smile, and she gave a perverted grin as she groped his behind before giving it a playful slap. From me like you. Miss Garcia! He yelled, scandalized at her bold actions, now frantically trying to get out of her grip. I think you can skip the formalities. I did just fill you up, you know, she pointed out, impishly, finally, releasing him. Yeah, I felt it, thanks, he told her sarcastically, trying to rub away the heat from his cheeks. So, I take it Caltech doesn't hold fond memories for you? Rossi added in, causing the light mood to return to his former dark one. It was basically the same as high school. Reed shrugged, doing exactly what Garcia told him not to do by downplaying his experiences. After Caltech, I was invited over to MIT, but I passed. Why? Hodge questioned him. I figured it'd be the same as Caltech, and I wasn't keen on repeating that, no matter how much I loved to learn. Besides, I already knew what I wanted to do, but what I want, I can't have. He told him despondently. Why? Megan asked curiously, trying to think of what a genius wouldn't be allowed to do. Let me ask you this. Is Mr. Gideon still working for the BAU? He asked, and his interest perked up at their suddenly closed expressions. You knew Gideon? Hotch asked in a guarded voice. I've never spoken to him. He was a guest speaker at Caltech one year. He explained what profilers did, how they did it, the works. I loved every moment, and I knew that's what I wanted to be. He admitted shyly, expecting them to laugh, and was surprised when no one did. I wanted to be like you. It wasn't spoken, but they could all hear it. So why didn't you talk to him? I think he would have been impressed, Rossi said seriously, thinking of how smart Jason would have been if he had found this kid. Impressed? With what, my black eye? I was late to the lecture, so I had to stand in the back. I was too far back to ask questions without yelling. That would have brought me attention that I did not want. Afterwards, I was going to speak with him, but he was surrounded by so many people, and I was so stunned by his message that I would have been a nervous wreck. Besides, he clearly stated you have to go through the FBI Academy. I didn't meet the age requirement, and I think we all know I would have failed the physical section. I realized right away it was a hopeless dream. A nice dream, but a hopeless one all the same. He lamented. You seem so certain, Emily noted in slight worry. Did Reed believe he was that worthless? I hate to admit this, but I'm not exaggerating my clumsiness that much. We've already established that I'm not stupid, but can you imagine the terror it would cause if I was given a loaded gun? The results would not be pretty. He tried to joke, but didn't get any laughs for his efforts. Ouch, tough crowd. Profilers don't need to carry a gun, Rossi pointed out wisely. No, but they still need to go through training, and in training you have to pass the firearm qualifications. Believe me, I tried one night at a gun range just to make sure I wasn't psyching myself out. Again, the result only cemented what I already knew. I am surprised though. I thought Mr. Gideon would be here with you guys, he asked, slyly changing topics. Gideon retired 2 years ago, Hotch said after a moment of fractal silence at the new topic. Gideon had never been the same after the bail case. When he had come back from his leave, he had been absolutely ruthless in his hunt for unsubs. He had become cold, for lack of a better word, and had tried to convince Strauss to allow him to go the lone wolf route like it used to be. She wasn't taking it, not after working so hard to change that regimen. And in the end, Gideon had more than less than been forced into retirement. Maybe it would have been different if he had found a protege he had been searching for, Hotch thought as he took in Spencer Reed. Gideon retired, and Rossi was kind enough to come out of retirement until a replacement was found. At this, Rossi snorted slightly. Yeah, 2 years ago. I think it's safe to say I'm out of retirement and I am a permanent fixture on this team, the older man commented wryly, making the others smile at his dry humor. Oh, I see, was all Reed said, understanding immediately by their faces that there was more to the story than a simple retirement. He decided to keep quiet and let it go. It wasn't his business. "Alright, kid," Morgan spoke up. "I get that you were feeling down about how people treated you, but to act stupid? Really?" Religion asked. "It fooled you, didn't it?" Reed replied haughtily. "And no, you obviously don't get it. I wasn't feeling down about how people treated me. That was simply imply that I had happier times, which I didn't, unless you counted learning something new." Alright, I didn't mean to offend you or to mean what you went through," Morgan amended. "But you had to have support from someone, right? Mom, Dad, a best friend?" "Everybody who wanted to be my friend was driven away quickly by the bullies or just wanted their homework done. My mom..." He frowned as he thought over how to word his next sentence. "She tried hard to be there for me, but she wasn't well then, and she's not well now." "Well, what about your dad? I'm sure he was proud of you," Morgan tried, unaware of the learned mind he was stepping on. "Oh yes, so proud. He walked out when I was 10, Reed bit out. "You know, the word father actually has a lot of definitions to it. Here's one. A man who raises a child." "Now, here's my personal definition. The deadbeat that walked out without even saying goodbye. I'm telling you, Morgan, there was no one." "I'm sorry, Reed. I didn't know." Morgan apologized, cursing himself for being so forceful. "Well, now you do, so please don't bring it up again." "But I still can't wrap my head around this. Acting stupid just seems ridiculous." "I thought so too in the beginning. You know, it only came to me when I was half asleep, and I decided to write it down," Rita admitted to them with a small grin. "When I looked over what I wrote in the morning, I couldn't believe I had jotted that down. The idea in of itself sounded stupid, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized it was one of those ideas that was so dumb it could actually work." "So, how do you go about becoming dumb?" Emily asked, honestly wondering how he did it. I mean, as a genius, I doubt you ever felt stupid. "I did research, got kicked out of the mall," he told them without a care, missing their confused looks at the mall part. "Watched a bunch of movies on the subject, and soon concluded that there were three major types I could study from: the empty-headed jock, the listless juggy, and the dumb blonde. I didn't fit the physical requirements to be a jock, and taking narcotics was never part of the plan, which left me with the dumb blonde." Garcia ended his sentence before letting loose a gleeful laugh. "Oh, sweetie, that's the best thing I've heard in a long time." "Go ahead, laugh it up," he told the group with a haggard look. "Just remember you fell for it." "So, is that the reason you..." Morgan trailed off, uncertain how to say what he wanted. "Look feminine?" Reed asked bluntly, seeing the question a mile off. "Yeah. It was something I overlooked," Reed admitted. "By the time I saw the full result, I had to go to class. I had signed up to take some courses at Las Vegas University. I didn't think one day would make a big difference, but for once girls were quick to become friends with me. I figured it wouldn't be smart to change after that. Over the years, it's just become a habit. So I'm not gay, and if you ever hit on me again, I will punch you in the face," Reed told him with a loving smile on his face. "You do that, pretty boy. But your plan didn't work 100%, did it?" Morgan asked. "What do you mean?" "The officers roughhousing you." Come on, man. We may not be geniuses, but we're not stupid either, Morgan told him pointedly. Oh, that. Spencer shrugged his shoulders. I'm not worried about them. Trust me, what they're doing is child's play to what I've gone through. The fact they're messing with you at all means your plan didn't work, Morgan practically yelled in frustration. How could Reed not see that? I happen to think it worked out relatively well, Reed replied tightly. How so? Morgan challenged. Acceptance? Reed muttered. What? Acceptance. It was part of my motivation to hide. First was for survival, but I had a second reason, and that was to gain acceptance. It gets lonely awful fast when you're the only genius in the room, he confessed. And I've been lonely my whole life. No one really tried to connect with me despite my own desperate attempts. Call me shallow if you ever want my reasoning, but if you've ever felt alone in a crowded room because of who you are, if you've ever felt condemned for being yourself, then maybe you can understand why I had to change. I did gain acceptance, not from everyone, but if a few bruises and being pushed around is the only price I have to pay, then so be it, he told him with a quiet resolve. I can't give it up. I can't give it up and go back to being alone. Nobody's going to make you, Hodge assured him, but I don't think you should have to pretend to be something you're not to gain what you should be given freely without judgment. Yeah, well, that's just the way it is, Reed replied firmly. It doesn't have to be that way, Hodge countered. Oh, and who's going to accept me for me? Reed asked with a raised eyebrow. Us, Hodge told him simply. I'm sorry? Reed shook his head as if he couldn't believe what he had just heard. Us, Hodge repeated. All of us would accept you. Most of what you've seen is an act, Reed reminded him quietly. Yes, but even your act had the real you shining you. I've seen people fake kindness and being nice before, so I know for a fact that every baked good, every cup of coffee and food brought to us by you wasn't just for the act. That was you. When you cheered us on and made banners, that was you. Maybe a little exaggerated, but it was you. Besides, I don't know if you've noticed, but we've heard your story, and not a single person here thinks you deserved it. We're not laughing, Reed. Just because you've heard it doesn't mean you can handle me. I have faults. I trip all the time. I babble on and on. I'm bad with social interaction. The young man felt the need to point out. Everyone is flawed, Rossi stepped in. I'm an arrogant bastard on my good days. Hodge can't smile to save his life. Garcia smiles too much. Hey! She yelped in defense. Morgan snores and steals food off of your plate. Man, I do not, the man complained. Yes, you do, Emily muttered back. Emily steals pens and never returns them. Also, she puts her files into other people's stacks. JJ's idea of a gift is a carrot. I want you to just start eating healthier, she countered, trying to defend her actions. She also cheats at arm wrestling, Rossi ended with his trademark smirk, seeing how annoying his team looked. So, you see, we all have our faults, each one annoying in its own special way. Trust me, we can handle you. I'd still have to make it through training. I don't think I'd make it, Reed replied. Your lack of confidence in yourself makes me sad. Rossi told him bluntly. I'm I'm not saying to get your hopes up, but I've read almost every article you've ever written under the name Dr. Pierce Jones. They have given me insight on things I thought I already knew and have helped me crack more than one cold case. Really? Reed blurted out in shock. Yes, the Bureau wanted to recruit you, but the magazine that published your works refused to give over your real name. Privacy Act and all that jazz. In any case, I bet the higher-ups would have lowered the age limit for you and turned a blind eye if your training results were less than stellar in the physical area. What? But that would be dangerous. Not only that, but it wouldn't be fair to the other new agents, Reed protested. You think the Bureau cares about fair? Rusty snorted. Kid, they want two types of people. Intimidating ones and smart ones. Trust me, with a mind like yours, they'd give you a lot of leeway. I still don't like it. It would make me feel like I didn't earn it, Reed told him. Which makes you a better person than you know. But just so you're aware, we aren't against consultants with certain expertise, Morgan interrupted with a grin. And since I have a feeling you're an expert in just about everything, we wouldn't be against your presence. A consultant? Reed let the word flow over his tongue. He kind of liked the sound. Or a mail room sorter. We could use one of those. Hotch decided to throw in. What? Emily asked him, laughter in her tone. What? We are hiring for one. It's a civilian job, no training needed, and if you stayed longer on our floor, then so be it. Hotch said, completely serious. I don't know, Reed told the man, trying to reject the idea in a way that wouldn't make the other mad. It's only a suggestion, Hotch replied. Yes, but when it comes from you, it sounds like an order, Reed admitted, and received a lot of laughs for his statement. You're not afraid of Hotch, are you? Jamie asked with a twinkle in her eyes. You don't have to be. You pegged him right when you gave us our drinks a few days back. Bitter, but sweet. So he won't become Hulk-like and crush me if I do something wrong? Reed asked, just to make sure. What? No, man, for genius, you have a wild illusion. Morgan spoke up before bursting in laughter as the image of Hawk growing 10 feet and turning green with a stoic expression still in place filtered into his mind. Am I that scary? Hotch muttered, picking up a random spoon and looking at its reflection. He looked stern, but surely not that stern. My friend, you look angrily constipated half of the time, Rossi ribbed him. Dave, I suggest you become quiet before I start recalling some stories about you from my rookie days, Hotch threatened. Did I say angrily constipated? I meant fresh and beautiful as a butterfly, Rossi amended with a grin on his face. Right, you just remember that when a certain picture released to Garcia. Rossi froze at the threat. You wouldn't, he challenged. I guess you'll find out when the time comes, Hotch replied casually, setting down the spoon. A possibly embarrassing photo of David Rossi. This I gotta see, Garcia said with a smile, since you know I smile too much. No, don't get mad. I did include myself on that list. Rossi tried to take control of the conversation. Yeah, one fault when most of us got two, Emily sniffed. I call it when I see it, he told her. What? Oh, it's on. Hotch, make copies of that picture and send it to everyone, Morgan told her leader. Reed, forgotten in their playful banter, smiled as he took them in. They seemed so comfortable around each other. Would they really accept him? They said they would, but things changed all the time. He needed to think it over. Just moving from Vegas to Virginia was a big decision in itself, let alone for a job he might not even get. Yes, he would definitely have to think this over, and it would have to be away from them. As interesting and as enlightening as this has been, he called out, gaining their attention, it's a big decision that I need to think on. Also, I need to take a shower and change clothes, he said, somewhat embarrassed, remembering that he had slept in his day clothes from yesterday and hadn't changed to get out yet. I'm not trying to kick you out, he hastily assured them. It's okay, sugar, Garcia grinned at him. It'd be even better if you let me join in that shower. Thank you, he said hesitantly, but I'll pass. Pity. She pretended to cry, wiping away a fake tear. We understand, Reed, Hotch told him. We haven't eaten yet, so we'll go get something to eat before going back to the hotel. Yeah, about that. Why are you guys still here? Reed asked, wondering why we hadn't been on the plane. The jet broke. They all replied with matching smiles that made him suspect there was more to the story. Right, he said slowly. I'll show you to the door. As they filed out one by one, they all gave their goodbyes to him, and he reciprocated, feeling genuinely sad at their leaving. Remember, Rossi said as he gave Wade a business card, you are a shoo-in for the BAU. Trust me, if you have questions, call me, he informed Reed before walking off. Here's my number and email address, Garcia said in her friendly but forceful way, shoving a piece of paper into his hands. Even if you don't take the job, we will be talking because we're friends and I'm not letting you go. Thanks, Garcia, he told her with a smile as he gave her a hug. If you want to come in my suitcase, you can, she whispered in her ears. What? Nothing, she said quickly, breaking the embrace and leaving with a swift walk. Take care, kid, Morgan patted his head back. If those cops bug you again, don't take it, okay? You don't deserve it. It was the man's last piece of advice before he began walking to the car. Sure, he said softly, staring at his back, before someone cleared their throat to gain his attention. Sorry, he apologized when he realized Hotch wasn't trying to get his attention. Reed, I promise I don't have a Hulk mode, Hotch felt the need to assure him. Also, I think you should know I would find it an honor if you joined my team. But don't do anything you don't want to. Take your time to think this over, alright? Of course, Reed replied faintly, flattered by the man's words. Have a safe trip. Leaving him from his front door, he watched as they sped off. Today had been full of surprises, and it wasn't even noon. My, I don't think I've ever seen you have company over, one of his neighbors remarked as he walked by. Friend of yours? Yeah, he said with a slow smile. Friends. thanks for listening. I'm sorry it took me so long to get another chapter of this fic out. It kind of got forgotten in the mess of my schedule. So here it is. I hope you enjoyed.